everyone, and welcome back to Learn English Podcast. I'm Emily.
And I'm Jack. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Before we get into today's topic, please remember to subscribe to Learn English Podcast. Your subscription helps us keep creating content and make sure you never miss an episode.
Absolutely. We really appreciate your support. So today we're going to talk about something that comes up in conversation all the time. How to talk about your job in everyday English.
This is such an important topic because one of the first questions people ask when they meet you is usually, "What do you do?" or "Where do you work?" Being able to talk about your job confidently is essential.
Right. And it's not just about stating your job title. There's a whole range of vocabulary and expressions we use to describe what we do, where we work, our responsibilities, and how we feel about our jobs.
Exactly. So let's start with the basics. The most common question you'll hear is, "What do you do?" This is a casual way of asking about your occupation or profession.
And the simplest way to answer is, I'm a, followed by your job title. For example, I'm a teacher, I'm a nurse, I'm an accountant, or I'm an engineer.
Notice that we use a or an before the job title. We say, "I'm a doctor," not "I'm doctor." This is a common mistake for learners to watch out for.
Good point. Now, you can also say, I work as a, followed by your job title. I work as a software developer, or I work as a marketing manager.
This is slightly more formal than just saying "I'm a," but both are perfectly acceptable in everyday conversation.
Another way to describe your job is to focus on what you do rather than your title. You might say, I teach English, or I design websites, or I manage a team of salespeople.
This approach is especially useful if your job title is complicated or might not be familiar to the other person. It gives them a clearer picture of what you actually do.
Exactly. Now, let's talk about where you work. You can say, I work at, followed by a company name or type of place.
For example, I work at Google, I work at a hospital, I work at a law firm, or I work at a school.
We use at for specific companies or organizations, but if you're talking about a general field or industry, you use in.
Right. I work in education, I work in healthcare, I work in finance, or I work in the tech industry. This describes the sector rather than a specific workplace.
You can also say, I work for when you want to emphasize your employer. I work for a small startup, or I work for the government, or I work for myself.
I work for myself is what you say if you're self-employed or run your own business. You might also say I'm self-employed or I run my own business.
And if you're a freelancer, you can say I'm a freelance writer, or I do freelance graphic design, or simply I freelance.
Now, let's talk about describing your responsibilities and duties. A common way to do this is to say I'm responsible for, followed by a task or area.
I'm responsible for managing the budget, or I'm responsible for customer relations, or I'm responsible for training new employees.
Another phrase is I'm in charge of, which has a similar meaning. I'm in charge of the marketing department, or I'm in charge of organizing events.
You can also describe what you do on a daily basis by saying my job involves or my work involves.
My job involves a lot of meetings. My work involves traveling to different cities. Or my job involves analyzing data.
To be more specific about tasks, you might say, I deal with something. I deal with customer complaints, I deal with financial reports, or I deal with suppliers.
We also use I handle in a similar way. I handle all the social media accounts, or I handle the scheduling for the entire team.
Now, let's discuss different types of employment. You might have a full-time job, which typically means working around 40 hours per week.
Or you might have a part-time job, which is fewer hours, maybe 20 hours a week or less. I work part-time at a bookstore, or I have a part-time position.
Some people work freelance, as we mentioned, or have contract work, which means they're hired for a specific project or time period.
You might say I'm on a 6-month contract, or I do contract work for several different companies.
There's also temporary work, or temp work, which is short-term employment, often filling in for someone who's away.
I'm doing temp work while I'm looking for a permanent position, or I got a temp job through an agency.
And some people have seasonal work, which only exists during certain times of the year.
Like, I have a seasonal job at a ski resort, or I do seasonal work during the holidays.
Now, let's talk about work schedules. If you work regular daytime hours, you might say, I work 9 to 5, or I work regular business hours.
But many people have different schedules. I work shifts, I work the night shift, I work the morning shift, or I work rotating shifts.
Some people say, I work irregular hours, or my schedule changes every week.
And increasingly common is I work from home or I work remotely. Since the pandemic, this has become very normal.
You might say, I'm a remote worker, or my company allows remote work, or I work from home 3 days a week.
There's also hybrid work, which means splitting time between the office and home. I have a hybrid schedule. I'm in the office on Mondays and Tuesdays.
Now, let's discuss how to talk about your career experience and career history. You might say, I've been working as a, followed by your job title and duration.
I've been working as a nurse for 5 years, or I've been working as an accountant since 2020.
Notice we use for with a period of time and since with a specific starting point.
Right. You can also say, I've been in this job for 3 years, or I've been with this company for 6 months.
When talking about past jobs, we use the past simple tense. I worked as a waiter before I became a chef, or I used to work in retail.
And if you've changed careers, you might say, I transitioned from teaching to corporate training, or I made a career change from finance to marketing.
Let's talk about job satisfaction and how you feel about your job. If you enjoy your job, you might say, I love my job, or I really enjoy what I do.
You could say, it's a great job, it's rewarding work, or I find my work fulfilling.
If it's not perfect but acceptable, you might say, it's a good job, or it pays the bills, or it's okay, nothing special.
That phrase, it pays the bills, is interesting because it suggests the job is mainly about earning money rather than passion.
Exactly. And if you're unhappy, you might say, I'm not happy in my current role, or the job is stressful, or I'm thinking about looking for something else.
You might also say, I'm burnt out if you're exhausted from overwork, or I'm ready for a change.
Now, let's discuss career progression. If you got promoted, you'd say, I was promoted to manager, or I got a promotion last year.
And if you're hoping for advancement, you might say, I'm working toward a promotion, or there's room for growth in this company.
When you're actively searching for work, you say, I'm looking for a job, or I'm job hunting.
You might be more specific. I'm looking for something in marketing, or I'm searching for a position with better hours.
And when you find opportunities, you might say, I'm applying for jobs, or I applied for a position at that company.
Once you get to the interview stage, you'd say, I have a job interview next week, or I'm interviewing for a position.
If you're successful, you might say, I got the job, or they offered me the position, or I accepted a job offer.
And when you start, you'd say, I start my new job on Monday, or I'm starting at the new company next month.
Now, let's talk about leaving a job. If you choose to leave, you might say, I quit my job, or I resigned, or I handed in my notice.
Handed in my notice, or gave my notice, refers to formally informing your employer that you're leaving.
In many jobs, you have a notice period, which is the time between resigning and your last day. I have to work a 2-week notice, or my notice period is 1 month.
If you're forced to leave, unfortunately, you might say, I was fired, or I got fired, or I was let go.
Let go is a softer, more polite way of saying fired. Laid off is different. It means your position was eliminated, usually for business reasons, not because of your performance.
The company downsized and I was laid off, or they laid off 20 employees.
Now, let's discuss workplace relationships and hierarchy. Your immediate supervisor might be your boss or manager.
You might say, my boss is really supportive, or I report to the regional manager.
If you manage others, you might say, I manage a team of 5 people, or I have 3 direct reports.
Direct reports are the people who report directly to you. It's professional terminology.
Your colleagues or coworkers are the people you work with. I get along well with my colleagues, or my coworkers are friendly.
In more casual conversation, you might say, the people I work with instead of colleagues or coworkers.
Now, let's talk about compensation. The polite professional term for what you earn is salary if you're paid annually, or wage if you're paid hourly.
In casual conversation, people often just say pay. The pay is good, or the pay could be better.
You might also say it pays well, or it doesn't pay very much.
Most people are hesitant to discuss specific amounts, but you might say, I make a decent salary, or I earn enough to live comfortably.
Benefits are also important. You might say the job comes with good benefits, or we get health insurance and paid vacation.
Some jobs offer perks like free lunch or gym membership or the ability to work from home.
Let's discuss work-life balance. This is a big topic nowadays. You might say, my job has good work-life balance, or I struggle to balance work and personal life.
If you work too much, you might say, I work long hours, or I often work overtime, or I'm working 60-hour weeks.
Overtime is time worked beyond your regular hours, often paid at a higher rate.
On the positive side, you might say, my company is flexible about hours, or I have a lot of flexibility in my schedule.
Now let's talk about professional development. You might say I'm taking courses to improve my skills, or the company provides training opportunities.
Or I'm working on getting a certification, or I'm pursuing professional development.
Some people go back to school while working. I'm doing my MBA part-time, or I'm taking online classes in the evenings.
Let's discuss some common questions people might ask about your job, beyond just, what do you do?
They might ask, how long have you been doing that? Or, how did you get into that field?
Do you enjoy it? Is a common follow-up question, or what's the best part of your job?
People might also ask, is it stressful? Or, what are the hours like? Or, do you travel much for work?
And a very common question is, how's work going? This is a general inquiry about how things are at your job.
You might respond with, it's going well, really busy lately. Or, it's been challenging but good. Or, same as always, nothing new.
Now, let's discuss some industry-specific vocabulary. Different fields have their own jargon, but there are some general terms that apply across industries.
In many jobs, you have meetings or conferences or presentations that are part of your regular work.
I have back-to-back meetings all afternoon, or I'm preparing a presentation for next week.
You might work on projects or assignments or tasks.
I'm working on a big project right now, or I have several deadlines coming up.
Speaking of which, a deadline is when something needs to be completed. The deadline is Friday, or I'm up against a tight deadline.
Let's talk about commuting, which is the journey to and from work. My commute is 30 minutes, or I have a long commute.
You might say I commute by train, or I drive to work, or I bike to the office.
Some lucky people can say, I walk to work, or my office is close to home.
Now, here's an important cultural note. In English-speaking countries, especially in casual situations, people often identify strongly with their work.
Yes, what do you do is one of the first questions people ask because your job is seen as an important part of your identity.
But it's also perfectly fine to express that work is just work and that your real passions lie elsewhere.
Absolutely. You might say, my job is fine, but my real passion is music, or work pays the bills, but I live for my hobbies.
Let's discuss some common mistakes learners make when talking about jobs.
One is forgetting the article before job titles. Remember, it's I'm a teacher, not I'm teacher.
Another is confusing work and job. Work is uncountable. You can't say, I'm looking for a work. You say, I'm looking for work, or I'm looking for a job.
Right. Work is the general concept of employment, or the tasks you do. Job is the specific position you hold.
Also, be careful with prepositions. You work at a company, in an industry, and for an employer.
I work at Microsoft, in the tech industry, for the cloud computing division.
Another mistake is using the wrong tense. For current jobs, use present simple or present continuous, I work or I'm working, not I worked.
Unless you're talking about a past job, then you definitely use past simple. I worked there for 3 years before I left.
One more thing worth mentioning is that it's completely acceptable to change careers or not have everything figured out.
Absolutely. You might say, I'm still figuring out what I want to do, or I'm exploring different career paths.
And if you're between jobs, you can say I'm currently unemployed, or more positively, I'm between jobs, or I'm taking some time off.
These phrases acknowledge the situation without sounding too negative.
Well, I think we've covered just about everything you need to talk about your job in English.
We really have explored this topic thoroughly, from basic job titles to career changes and everything in between.
The key is to practice these expressions so they become natural when someone asks you about your work.
And remember to subscribe to Learn English Podcast so you can keep learning with us.
Thanks so much for listening today, everyone.
We'll see you in the next episode. Take care.
Keep practicing and have a great day.